Please welcome Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Victoria Jones, and Lydia Hampson. Welcome.
Thank you.
These seats are quite hard on my little bony arse.
Oh, mine's got a bit of bounce.
Yeah, you okay? Right, so here we are, we're back. So can I just explain it? So Vicky, co-creator and co-written this stage play. Yes?
No, I did not write the stage play. I was the director
of stage play, which was up here.
And I was there while Phoebe wrote it, helping.
You're her rock. And Lydia, you did a TV series.
Yeah,
which was
produced a
brilliant.
TV
Just to clear it all up, because I fucked the start of it up, so that's good. Yes, so we're back in Edinburgh, and actually Fleabag's back in Edinburgh, isn't it, as a stage play?
Yes,
have you been to see it?
It is. I'm seeing it today.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
Really
and how does it feel being back and being on that journey? Do you get reminded of where it all started?
I mean, it's amazing. It's just a very surreal... I was just saying off there, it's just so surreal that we're back here now, listening to that, which was so much of it as part of the original play, and being here and Maddie doing it, and just, thank you, Edinburgh, basically. Yeah, it wouldn't have happened without Edinburgh.
So let's go back. Let's go way back to kind of where it all started, and part of the point of this session to try and develop some kind of themes and some kind of notions as to how it got to be where it's got to be. It all sort of started with you two guys. Vicky, you used to do a lot of theatre shows, and you sort of forced Phoebe to start this off as a monologue. Is that correct?
She was asked by Deborah Frances-White, actually, weren't you, to write a performance piece which was sort of stand-up. And was it stand-up or was it spoken?
It was a stand-up storytelling evening, which is a trick. It's basically, she was just getting people to do stand-up, but they were like people who were too nervous to do stand-up, so she gave you a stool and said it was sit-down storytelling, but it had to be funny. So she'd asked me to do that.
And we were rehearsing something else, actually, and I was like, what? Because we only had 2 weeks to rehearse this other play, and Phoebe told me in the first lunch break that she'd written something else, and could I have a look at it with her? And it was the first 10 minutes of Fleabag. That she'd sort of written just overnight, seemingly, and sat on a stool and did it for me, and I kind of couldn't believe it. And we worked on it a little bit, and then she did it for this audience who kind of went mad for it. It had an ending that sort of brought in the father right at the end, and was basically the hybrid of the first episode of Fleabag, and it went down really well, and the audience all told us we should take it to Edinburgh. We had never really been to Edinburgh, and so we mentioned it to our producer, who was only 24 at the time, and she said, yeah, I know Edinburgh, I'll book it for you. And so she booked us into the Underbelly and the Big Belly and gave us like 2 weeks rehearsal. And 2 weeks before the festival started, Phoebe still hadn't written it. Oh. And so, luckily, we could stay in the rehearsal room overnight, so we spent pretty much all day and all night wrangling the rest of the play out of her.
50-minute show, that was the full Edinburgh hour sort of piece, yeah?
Yeah. So I was really pleased with the 10 minutes that we'd got, and then I was so pleased with it that I thought the rest would just magic out of nowhere before the 2 weeks. But I think you need an inescapable deadline sometimes. I think that the show would never have happened if the slot hadn't been booked and then I had to write it. I mean, I was writing the end on the train on the way to Edinburgh. And I don't mean that in a cool way, like we were writing the end. It's really not a cool way, but I was literally just on the train going, how does it end? I was crying. And Vicky was like, what do you want to say? And I was like, I don't know, this. And then she was like, fucking write that down then. Make that the end. So it was quite smash and grab, and it wasn't something we'd ever planned to do as a theatre company, and it just sort of...
So that your theatre company was slightly sort of born out of frustration when you very first met. You were directing a play that you were in, that you weren't happy with, and you... Yeah.
I was
happy to have a job, but they weren't happy with me.
They didn't like me. It was one of those bad experiences where you're working with people who maybe are just... I don't know. I don't want to say vanity project, but like, you know, it was, I tried to make it better, and they fired me, and then Phoebe left in protest because I was fired, and that fused our friendship from the beginning. And we started Dry Write pretty soon after that, which was our company, just sort of because no one was giving us a job, and we did everything for free and worked with lots of playwrights on various different theme nights, and ended up working with a lot of writers over.
And at that time, we
few
hadn't
years.
even thought about writing ourselves. We were just really in love with new writing, thought there wasn't really much opportunity for kind of broke recent graduates to really get their work seen or heard. And so we were just facilitating loads and loads of writers. And then eventually we turned around to each other and went, maybe it's because we want to write. After about 4 years of busting our gut to put on loads of new writing nights, we tried ourselves.
So you touched on it a bit there, but what was the process in terms of getting it from the monologue into the full show? Would you share drafts? Would you perform it for her? What's your dynamic in terms of how you work?
So that 10 minutes that was the starting off point, kind of, I knew that was going to be the tone, and I knew that it was kind of, in that first 10 minutes started off with the kind of Obama wank and the
Interview, is that right?
and the interview, and it also just kind of gags after gags after gags. But I knew that I wanted it to have a kind of heart-wrenching ending, and that for her to suddenly have a moment of self-awareness, and that's why she ends up at her dad's doorstep. But that felt like a complete 10-minute thing in itself, because that's how I'd written it. So the next 2 weeks were basically me like going back through my life to find the most humiliating moments, and some jokes that I'd somehow written down at some point, and then basically brought them in and just acted. Honestly, it was an amazing experience, because as a writer, I suppose it's like having the actor in the room as well. But to have Vicky there, I'd just come in and I would just test the material on her, and whenever she'd go, "You can't do that," she'd go, "That's
Which
going
was
in."
all the time.
She was shocked, and if she didn't laugh, it was like, "That's coming out." And so just to have this, and Vix was just directing it and finding the tone with me, and finding how to stage it and all that kind of stuff around all at the same time. So it really came together really quickly. But it did feel like a splurge of something that I'd been sitting on.
It felt like nobody was ever going to see it, and nobody would notice, and that we could say anything we wanted if we were pleasing each other, basically. Yeah.
And it's come up that it's not autobiographical in some sense. You've taken bits from your lives and experiences. It's very personal, but it's not Fleabag isn't your life story, is it?
No, my best friend is alive and is here for a start. No, I think the dramatic, I can't resist saying it's autobiographical, because the dramatic turns in it aren't true, and a lot of it was just imagined, so it's a decent, so it's a fun ride for an audience. But a lot of the humour certainly is, and a lot of the jokes, and the more kind of unfortunate little kind of one-off embarrassing moments, a lot of them have come from my own life. It's very cathartic putting them out to the nation after you've suffered these embarrassments yourself. But so it was a mixture, really.
Yeah. So getting on the road from stage to screen, in terms of Two Brothers, the production company, how was that decision made to go with? Were a lot of people interested in an option in the play, or what happened next?
Well, amazingly, I had my first ever general meeting. I just got a writing agent, and my first ever general meeting was with Two Brothers. Liz wasn't there yet, though. It was with Jack and Harry, and it was the day after the monologue, the first 10 minutes that I'd done, and we had a meeting, and they said, "What have you been up to?" And I just said, "Well, last night I did this weird thing," and they said, "Well, tell us a bit about it." And I sort of acted, well, I just sort of told them the Obama wank bit, and they went, "We'll have it. Great. I love it. What is this?" And I was like, I don't know what it is. And then, but they were like, "We love that tone and that humour." So they said, and I sort of started working on a side project, which was mortifyingly called the Phoebe effect. I know, which I actually weirdly promised myself I'd never say, and now I've chosen to. And so that was parked. And then meanwhile, it happened that we were rehearsing this other play, and then what we described earlier happened, and then I was writing the play of it, and we were going up to Edinburgh with it, and then I sort of called them and said, "I don't know, some of the stuff that I spoke to you before about is in this play," and they were like, "We'll just go and do the play and see what happens." And then just loved them so much from the first conversation that we had, and that leap of faith they originally had just from those couple of jokes that we had in that meeting when Chris Sussman from the BBC came and said he really liked it. He's here today.
Hi, Chris.
Lovely Chris Sussman. And so I went back to Two Brothers and said, "Can we, people are interested." "Shit, what do I do?" And they said, "It's okay, we'll..."
Can we watch a little bit of Obama? I'm going to throw the order here, Chris Sussman, just to annoy you. But if we can have the Obama clip, just to remind us, because you've mentioned it twice.
I know, I can't stop talking about Obama.
Here we go.
Power rarely gives up without a fight. particularly in places where there are divisions of tribe and divisions of sect. We also know that populism can take dangerous turns, and there will be difficult days along the way. From the extremism of those who would use democracy to deny minority rights, to the nationalism that left so many stars.
Nothing. Harry,
I know what you were doing.
I was watching the news.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
What was he talking about then?
What?
Please, I just need to hear this. What was he talking about?
Iraq.